Welcome back to Africa This Week. South Africa has just launched a new initiative to improve service levels in the tourism value chain. Thokozile Xasa, South Africa's Deputy Minister for Tourism, explained the new standards.
Today was one very important day in South African tourism because building from the fact that we come from the World Cup, there was a lot of expectation about the country to ensure that we can bring more visitors into the country.
Yes.
And we were saying we said, what is it that we can do better and more building on the World Cup? And
right.
we conducted a study to get to understand what are the gaps within the industry, what are the areas of improvement that we need to look at. And then we commissioned a South African Bureau of Standards to assist us set up standards which we think would also be a benchmark for international standards, because we're looking at what is it that we can do to ensure that we deliver on the expectation of our visitors,
right.
the quality service. So we've come up with the service excellence requirements,
right.
which has been a product out of a collaboration by the Tourism Business Council and the National Department.
Okay. These are the new standards.
These are the new standards. And it has been a pride of South African Bureau of Standards to say, you know, if you're looking into the fact that the department has shown a commitment to ensure that what we would deliver as kinds of products throughout the value chain of tourism would really present a visitor into South Africa, or any product, a person who is going to consume our product,
right.
a value for that service.
So who bought into this concept? Who was at today's launch? And what's their take on what the manual that you've put out now?
Who was there today? We had CEOs of the associations throughout the country.
Right.
And that is an indication of the whole body of tourism, because for us, we're saying tourism can only succeed if there is government leadership, and then the industry plays its part, and the community, which at times are consumers, and at the same time, it's people that we're looking to be ambassadors of the very same products that we have everywhere. So all of them were there.
It's true. Now, what do these standards cover? Because I remember one of the criticisms in the time leading up to the World Cup was that what you found were huge pricing disparities from hotels to lodges to all these other establishments that were offering services to tourists that were coming into the country.
We have 4 main focus areas as part of these standards.
Okay.
One looks into marketing, that what establishments would be marketing would be what a product user would find in an establishment.
Right.
The second thing is that we have incorporated the grading council criteria, which then looks into what is this product. So that if you want, for instance, if you talk of a hotel, it's a grade 3 establishment. Then you get exactly that.
That service, the level of service.
Yeah, you get that level of service.
And that's always been contentious, hasn't been?
So that's what it provides to all our product owners throughout the value chain. The third aspect is that of service excellence.
Right.
The kind of service, so that we can get a feedback to say, did we provide the kind of service that we want? Okay. So the standards must be able to tell us and feedback on us, because the last one would be monitoring and evaluation that gives us that feedback. We are establishing a tool that would feedback and integrate the other mechanisms that have been there, not integrated before.
Sure. And the fourth one?
That's monitoring and evaluation
so
on top
1, 2, 3,
of
4.
Yeah.
Kenya should benchmark its tourism figures on yield generated rather than numbers. These are the words of Damien Cook, CEO of eTourism Frontiers, and he explained.
It's a common problem right across a lot of emerging markets worldwide that many countries, particularly here in Africa, haven't kept pace with what's happened when it comes to the distribution of travel, particularly via technology. We're looking at a position worldwide where now basically half, or just over half, of travel is not just researched on the internet, but booked, bought and sold on the internet too. That's not the case in many of our destinations. But it's changing rapidly, and in Kenya and in a lot of African countries, we're starting to see the first steps now to really close that gap.
Let's just talk a little bit about the target for Kenya's tourism. I mean, that's one of the huge sectors for that country, one of the huge money earners for Kenya. And again, going back to your commentary, you were saying that Kenya still places far too much emphasis on elderly tourists and puts little effort into the younger generations. And now we know that the younger generations, a lot of them are on Facebook, on Twitter. That's where it is right now. So how can Kenya turn this around?
Well, it's about where we're focusing our marketing, and I think in Kenya in particular it's been symptomatic of the way tourism's been distributed. There's been a very heavy reliance on agents and operators in Europe sending out contracted quotas of tourists every year to resorts, to safari lodges, which has worked very well in the past but is not working in the current market, which is why we see an increasingly aging demographic in the tourists. We may be selling to the same visitors that are returning year on year, but we're not selling to their children. And obviously when we do look at that younger demographic that we do need to target in our destination, the obvious place to reach them is online. And not just the young people, but even older people. You know, the online population is so huge and so diverse now. This year we'll have 1 billion people on Facebook. We're going to reach that point. This is a huge and should be seen as one of our key source markets for tourism, but we need to make the right moves to start accessing them.
I want to ask you this, Damien. I mean, some of the research shows that 96% of travelers start their research on the destinations they are going to go to online. And rightfully, as you said, it's not just young people, old people as well. Let's just talk a little bit about reviews, because I mean, research again shows that about 30% of people make their decisions on where they're going to go on reviews that they find, and sometimes a lot of these reviews are online. Just how much do you have to be involved in how much is out there online as a company, as a country, that you're not just giving out online presence, but that you're actually engaging with those clients?
It's absolutely vital, because a huge revolutionary shift that's happened online is that people are predominantly consuming content online that isn't coming from information suppliers like companies and businesses, but coming from other users. Because those other users, those other fellow customers, have no vested interest in selling to you. They're going to give you their honest opinions. And people see that user-generated content, not just reviews, but also people talking about their travel experiences, their photos, their videos, as being more reliable, more honest, and more up to the minute than the officially mandated content that a business or a destination may put out. So it's absolutely vital that we start encouraging them to say good things about us and leveraging the good things that are being said about us. I mean, beyond reviews, back to Facebook again, we now see people literally, as each tourist comes to our countries, they have on average 150 to 200 friends that they're communicating with on a daily basis as they travel. And last year, 72% of Americans, when they traveled, updated Facebook at least once a day. So that means each step of that travel experience, they're showing people where they went, they're showing photos of where they went, they're talking about what they did. And that's marketing being done for us literally by our customers as they travel. And as you mentioned, those reviews that they write are really important market influencers as well.
Founded by the UN Environmental Programme and other UN agencies, SEED supports innovative small-scale and locally driven entrepreneurship that integrates social and environmental benefits into their business model. Nick Natal, Acting Director of Communications at the UN Environment Programme, explained to Godfrey Mutizwa.
It was an idea that there are a lot of small, even micro businesses out there doing very interesting things, but they need a partner. They need somebody to assist them on simple stuff like marketing, even just accountancy, advertising, whatever it might be, to sort of guide them, support them, assist them through those stages of the early growth pangs.
Yeah.
And that is what SEED does. It gives a prize, but it also gives some money to those winning companies from around the world to assist them to develop their business model.
Yeah. So apart from putting South Africa on the map, the World Summit on Sustainable Development in 2002, I do remember I was here, that did bring something. So SEED came out of it. But in terms of growing this sector, just how active have been governments in trying to come up with the right policies to try and generate business development around the green economy?
Well, the green economy as a concept, in a sense, burst on the stage in about 2008 at the height of the economic and financial crisis. UNEP, my organization, was very instrumental in that because we were trying to see how could you actually implement sustainable development. We've had that term around for ages. 1992, the Earth Summit in Rio, 2002 here in Johannesburg. But while there has been some progress on this, it's been very patchy, it's been quite theoretical in some cases. What are some of the missing ingredients? And part of that is the economics. And part of that is because a lot of the economics of the environment have been almost invisible in the profits and loss of countries, communities and companies. You know, you can chop all your trees down and it's a positive hit on your GDP because you've got logs to sell. But the actual services the forest provides, which can be multi-trillion dollar, multi-million dollar services, aren't captured in the economics. So in a sense, the green economy and how that has been developing is trying to bring that sense that there is wider value in the world, there's a wider definition of wealth, and trying to create economies that not only keep the humanity within planetary boundaries, but also generate decent kinds of employment, because a lot of the growth that we've seen around the world in the last few years has lifted millions out of poverty in places like China and elsewhere, but it's come at a very high cost to the environmental services upon which we all depend. And job-wise, a lot of people have jobs which maybe aren't as decent as they could be.
So the argument for it is quite strong. But is there a realization on the ground? Let's begin first, as I said, on the government, at the government level. Are you seeing policies that are coming into play that foster an understanding and an appreciation of the issues that you've just read? And secondly, within the business sector itself and the ordinary person, are you beginning to get that awareness as well, that this is the way we ought to be thinking? Or is it this just a fad of the rich, you know, we think about organic stuff and all that?
Is it the emperor's new green clothes?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, let me point to a figure, an interesting figure that came out last year, which was an assessment on the amount of investment in renewable energy around the world in 2010. 2 years after the economic and financial crisis, many people expected that renewable energy investments would go down. They actually went up 32%, $211 billion invested in new renewable energies around the world, more than in new fossil fuel industry. I mean, China obviously out there very fast, but Africa is showing a growth of over 105%. And by 2010, about $5 billion being invested in renewable energy in Africa. Now, of course, that is moving on very fast right now. I see only this week that Standard Chartered in South Africa was talking about increasing its investment of renewables in South Africa to, what, 3.5 billion, something like that? This very week in Kenya, the largest wind farm in sub-Saharan Africa was given the green light. In one of the poorest parts of Kenya, up in Turkana. There have been challenges with that because one of the big challenges there was who would pay for the interconnector to get it to the grid. That delayed it. So there are challenges. But you're seeing many sectors and many countries within Africa and beyond embracing parts of the green economy. The question is, how do you bring it all together and how do you actually scale it up?
That's all for this edition of Africa This Week.